And you were talking about like just rust and maybe taking the under on Cleveland's win total at the time because, he's going to miss a bunch of time and we haven't seen him in quite some time. Now the word comes down that he's suspended for 11 games, $5 million fee. So he's going to miss a bunch of time. What do you think about Cleveland as a team overall? 8.5 is their win total. It's at plus money. Do you feel like this is a team that's going to struggle this year? Like, I just feel like with Jacoby Brissett under center and so many moving pieces, new faces in the offense, I feel like this is a team that I don't think I want to be in on them at all.
No, I think it's a big question mark because this is the problem with the Browns. They always have some good talent on their roster, but how many times have they been like a trendy underdog pick entering the season and then they just blow it? Because here's the thing. It is not a locker room that looks like they handle this outside stress very well. Last year, look at him with OBJ and his dad in those videos and Baker Mayfield. If they can't handle the stress of that, do you think they can handle the stress of Deshaun Watson and all of this nonsense? And plus, he's a guy that's not even, it would be one thing if he wasn't involved on every single play of the offense when he's playing, when he's on the field. But your quarterback's supposed to be the face of the franchise and your leader. So it's just, they haven't shown me anything. And plus, their division is still very good. Look at the Bengals. They went to the Super Bowl last year. Look at the Ravens, who, if everyone on the depth chart isn't hurt this season, they should be good. Here's the question I have. If you're playing the futures market, and I think the Bengals might be plus 175, and the Ravens are plus 125, something like that, would you play both of them if you are for certain that it's going to be one of those teams that wins the division?
Yeah, I think I would. And because it's pretty good value. Because if you look at some of the other division leaders, the Bucs are minus 250. Well, I want to talk to you about the AFC South, but the Bills are 230. The Packers are massive favorites. So there's value here with both of those teams, to your point. I still think, the Bengals, I still think it's the Bengals. You're right. Everything happened to Baltimore last year. I've never seen a team go through something like that before the season started. Like multiple running backs, strong defensive players, all suffered injuries. I think that they're going to be one of the more improved teams because of what they went through. But I still think I like this Bengals team to win the division. The offensive line is much improved over the past couple of years. Trying to keep Joe Burrow upright has been the key, and that's what it should be the key, right? You saw what he was able to do so quickly in the NFL, like from a number one overall pick to bring his team to the Super Bowl within a couple of years is phenomenal. I think the reason I may have a little bit of pause is the AFC is so good. It's so awesome. I got to ask you about this AFC West division. Let's do it. Let's bring up the odds right now. And I want to get your thoughts on who you think will win this division, Chelsa, because we could see three teams. We could see as many as three teams from this division make the playoffs. And if that's the case, and say the Chargers and the Broncos are wildcard teams, who else is getting in? You got either maybe one of the Bengals or the Ravens get one of those wild card berths. Maybe your Titans get a wild card berth. Maybe we're looking at, I don't know, the Dolphins or the Pats get in there too. Like this is, to me, I can't even give you a concrete answer. I hope you can help me out and the viewers and the listeners. I think this is one of the better divisions, not just in football, but maybe in sports. Who do you like to win the division? And I'll ask you the same question. Would you take two of the three? Or would you get involved with maybe Chargers or Broncos wild card? Because you can get that like 2-1 plus 250 in some spots.
Yeah, I don't think I have a play on who's going to win the division because this honestly feels like the hardest division to handicap because every team has a full cupboard of weapons. But I will say a ton of people aren't talking about the Chiefs. And I know Patrick Mahomes lost Tyreek Hill, but still in a division where there are a lot of new head coaches. And Patrick Mahomes is still a damn good quarterback. And he has Andy Reid, one of the most offensively gifted minds in the NFL. I feel like people are just forgetting about the Chiefs. So I think I don't have a play there, but I do like the Chargers to make the playoffs. I think you get it at a decent price. It's minus 162, which is a little chalky, but still, I think it's a value play when you consider how much better they got on defense. Look at the guys they added. Khalil Mack was an NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Joey Bosa is making headlines in training camp. People saying that he's unblockable, which is, par for the course because I don't really take training camp headlines too seriously. But, this is what we've seen for him over his course of career. Also looking at the secondary, J.C. Jackson, Derwin James. This is a team that really struggled to stop the run last season. And it really cost him in a lot of games because it was not the fault of Justin Herbert, who was absolutely amazing even as a young guy. So if he continues to progress, if Brandon Staley can be just a little smarter as a head coach, because he's a young guy too, he's
Yeah, he
very
is.
young for a head coach.
Yeah.
So if their defense can stop the run just a little bit, I think the Chargers do make the playoffs. That's my favorite bet out of the AFC West, minus 162.
I love it. They may have the best roster on paper, right? You just gave
Yeah.
a lot of reasons why that defense could be better and stopping the run. And we know Herbert. And I agree. Like Staley in year 2 as a head coach, you don't see a lot of rookie head coaches, have that much success, but they were right there. I feel like the Chargers have just gotten in their own way over the past couple of years with injuries.
Chargers gonna Charger.
Fluky losses. Yeah, you hear it all the time. But I agree. I'm with you. I think that they're a playoff squad, and I think sky's the limit for them. It should be an absolute bloodbath in that division. Talk to me about your Titans. What's the feel in Tennessee with this squad? You're shaking your head. I don't know. No AJ Brown. Is it going to be a long year? I feel like people every year kind of write them off, and they're usually right there.
That's exactly what I was going to say, because the national narrative is always, well, it's going to be the Colts that win the AFC South. And that's where we're seeing the money come in, because initially it was the Titans that were favored to win the AFC South. Now they're plus 170, it looks like. So now it's the Colts that are favored to win the division. But this is still a very feisty Titans team, because the national narrative always counts the Titans out. Just look at last year. The numbers prove it. The Titans were 6-2 against the spread and straight up as underdogs, beating some of the best teams in all of football, the Rams, the Bills, the Chiefs. But the problem is when the Titans are favorites. 4-6 against the spread when favored. So buyer beware when backing the Titans against bad teams. I'm not sure what it is, but it's still a very good defense. The pass rush was one of the best ones in football that people didn't really talk about. I think they had 3 guys, the only team in the NFL with 3 guys with at least like 6 or 7 sacks. So they had multiple guys that were really getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks. And I think that's going to be the difference maker when going against the Colts. I know the Colts have a great offensive line, but Matt Ryan is not especially fleet of foot. So if you can get to Matt Ryan and get him on the ground, maybe that's the equalizer.
Yeah, and they still have I know Jonathan Taylor's really good and he had a great season, but Derrick Henry is still like one of the best, if not the best running backs in the entire league. Chelsea, he was on pace for like 500 touches, which is crazy. I don't know if they scale things back from him a little bit, but I know you don't follow, you do follow training camp and you take things with a grain of salt, but everything that I'm reading is this guy just, plate in his foot or not, he looks still like a absolute beast.
Yeah, have you seen his biceps? I think his biceps are bigger than my head. He is an absolute freak of nature physically, which I know does not always translate into touchdowns and stuff. But here's the thing about Derrick Henry. The Titans are going to run the football, whether everybody on the sideline knows it. And that was kind of the problem in the postseason, is when Derrick Henry was in there, they're like, oh, wow, the ball's going to Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about the Titans. And that's the thing. If you're trying to play unders on anything Derrick Henry, good luck to you, my friend, because it doesn't even matter if he's being successful. The Titans will continue to run the rock because that's what Mike Vrabel likes to do. Even when Derrick Henry wasn't playing, they were still running the ball consistently with their backup running backs.
Yeah, and they were having some success. I never take unders on Henry. If you don't want to take the over, just leave it alone.
Because he can always one run.
Exactly. I always feel like maybe you're on the way to an under, and then late in the fourth quarter, he busts off a 60-yard run because dudes are just sick of tackling him. They don't want to tackle because the biceps are bigger than your head and your body. And that is a true statement. Just like the Chargers are going to charge her, Mark Hart says. There was a question here from Mark about Robert Woods, his yards total. I looked it up on the fly here in the commercial break, Mark. I'm seeing 775 for Robert Woods and 725 for Treylon Burks. So both of those guys pretty much have the same receiving yard prop for the year. If I had a lean, it probably would be Woods. I think he's more of like a short yardage guy. Should be the number one. Maybe Burks takes over, after time as a rookie, maybe learning the playbook a little bit. I know he's had some off-field stuff happening, Chelsa, but he's also had some nice moments in camp as well. And I know they're going to be run heavy. Woods is a great run blocker, so I expect him to be on the field quite a bit. He's a little bit older, coming off a knee injury. It's tough. I don't love either prop, but if you had a choice between the two of having like the most yards, would you pick Woods or would you pick Burks?
Well, which guy do you think is going to stay on the field the most? Because I think that's the biggest question. Really?
I do.
Listen, I'm a little burned after last year. Do you know how many games that AJ Brown and Julio Jones played together? I
Oh my
think it was
goodness.
like 4 or 5.
One? I would have
So,
guessed
yeah,
one.
Julio Jones was a huge disappointment because he rarely played. He was good for what? 1 touchdown? So, forgive me if I'm not willing to put my faith in an old receiver coming off a knee injury or whatever it
Good
is.
call. Good call.
So
Yeah.
maybe I'm not sure where to go with the passing props because I think one of the big question marks for the Titans is their offensive line. They've had real issues with the offensive line. I think that's part of the reason why Ryan Tannehill has struggled. You kind of see it late in the season where people around here were saying he almost had the yips, that he was so afraid of somebody like coming up and tackling him that he wasn't making the throws that he used to make. So the Titans have some real issues on offensive line. So it's going to be tough to get some of those passing props if Ryan Tannehill cannot get those passes off. So I don't know. I think I would stay away from most receiving props. But if you do think that all the reports out of training camp are accurate and Treylon Burks is this guy that's making these incredible catches, maybe put a sprinkle on him for offensive rookie of the year. But there is plenty of competition in that regard. Most notably George Pickens. Everybody is salivating when they saw him. And listen, I was a TV reporter in Georgia when I remember Georgia got George Pickens, and everybody was, freaking out, and for good reason. So wouldn't be surprised if he won it either.
I really like him as a wide receiver. Yeah, he's physical, and that was certainly on display in his first season or his first game in the preseason. I think you said it perfectly, actually. I think Woods will be on the field more, but I get that hesitancy, and I wouldn't take either. But Burks, you're right, does have the higher ceiling. And if you're looking at yards, like that's the guy who's going to have more yards. I don't know. Woods is like a true X receiver. So I would probably just stay away, Carr, but they're both very similar. There's probably some value there on Woods. Chelsa, was there another team that you like, from an NFL future standpoint, maybe a sneaky one that you think maybe you're in on a playoff squad or over on a win total?
Yeah, my favorite win total is going to be on the Saints. Over, I think it's 8.5 wins. And this is one of the most popular bets over at BetMGM when it comes to the over. They have received the most money on, I think it's 5 teams for the over, and the Saints were one of them. And what's not to like about the Saints? Look at them last year. How many COVID injuries or whatever we're calling the COVID list happened to be for the Saints last year? They were playing with a decimated roster with the most mediocre quarterback play this side of Carolina, with Taysom Hill and Ian Book or whoever was starting at quarterback. So if they can get even a little bit out of Jameis Winston, and here's the thing, their defense is supposed to be very, very good this year. I think Football Outsiders has them as the number 1 ranked defense in the league, according to some of their metrics. And then looking at their skill position players, they have quite the depth chart. I was looking at Jarvis Landry. Chris Olave is supposed to be a nice little addition as a rookie. Michael Thomas, if he can stop posting philosophical quotes on Twitter and actually be on the field, they have a whole stacked cupboard if they can stay healthy. Really like that total of 8.5. They got 9 last year.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're improved. I can't argue any of that, with Football Outsiders and their metrics. They're really, really strong defense. One of the best run defenses in the NFL over the years. And I don't know if there's a quarterback who has had this much of an upgrade. Traquan Smith and Marquez Callaway to Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, Jarvis Landry, like you just said. There's a lot of added elements there. And still Alvin Kamara's got a lot to offer. I love that call. Yeah. 9 wins last year, and they're improved. And if Jameis can stay healthy, they can get them over the top.